Hey y'all, welcome back to It's Just a Little Bit of Turbulence, the podcast where we talk about real life stuff that might feel scary, messy, or overwhelming in the moment. But when we look at it with God's perspective, we realize it's not a crash. It's just a little bit of turbulence. I'm your host, Renisha, who many of you call Rue. Hey boo. Hey sir. I'm a storyteller, creative, and a woman of faith who believes in keeping it real, showing up honest, and shining a light on the stuff we don't always talk about. So whether you're new here or you've been rocking with me, I want you to know this space is about grace, truth, healing, and humor. Sometimes I'll have guests. Sometimes it'll just be me and you. But every time, we're going to walk away a little lighter, a little stronger, and a little more grounded. Let's get into today's episode. Today I'm sharing something deeply personal, something I've been holding for a long time, but it came back to me recently while I was watching a YouTube video of a young woman sharing her own story of surviving abuse. She said something that put a mirror in front of me. And it wasn't, unfortunately, as much that what she shared was shocking, but you ever have those moments where you're hearing someone speak about them, but you be like, dang, this sounds a lot like me, that just force you to pause and to start to really process some things. She talked about how her desire to be seen and loved by a certain group of people, especially in the shadow of a famous relative, made her vulnerable to not only manipulation and abuse, but just overall missing things that she might have been able to catch before. And I thought, wow, how many times did I walk myself into harm's way simply because I didn't know how to grieve or how to heal or how to name my own heartbreak? That moment reminded me of the years where I misjudged what was going on in my own soul. Y'all know, those who've been rocking for a bit, I talk a lot about the soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And there were times when I looked whole on the outside, but I had open wounds still bleeding on the inside. So this was long before my man, my husband, and just some years back. But thinking about this and even speaking to you about this today, something from behind you can sometimes be like what the mirror says, in the car. The object is closer than it seems. So this is a while back, but it was the end of a 6-year relationship. One I had imagined my whole future around. And at the same time, I was also hit with grief, navigating that heartbreak, health issues that I had been navigating serious stuff for about a year, maybe more. And it was scary stuff. I'm talking many strokes, scary diagnoses like a brain tumor and going blind, lots of testing, treatments or what should be treatments, weight loss, which for anybody who has put in the physical, the mental, and the emotional work to lose weight, you understand. And just a lot of life change that all eventually became good for me. But at the time, it felt like one long survival stretch. And in the middle of it all, I did what a lot of us do when we don't know what to do with our pain. I went looking for comfort. But instead of healing, I ended up in something darker. A situationship that started as casual, but turned into my first experience with romantic, emotional, and physical abuse. And the part that breaks my heart now is realizing that my calling, my gift for nurturing, my heart for connection, my desire to love deeply was still active during that time. It didn't disappear just because I was hurting, but because I hadn't healed, the enemy used it against me. And that's the part that I really need somebody to hear today. Your gifts are still active, even when your heart is broken. But if you don't let God heal your heart, the enemy will misuse your calling. And that kind of pain hits different. There's nothing worse than waking up and realizing you've poured your purpose into a place it was never meant to be in. And not because you were stupid or weak, but because you were wounded. Because you were just trying to survive. Because you didn't have language for your grief yet. And listen, I'm not telling you this story because I want your sympathy or because I want to rehash my pain. I'm telling it because somebody listening needs to know that you are not the only one who's ever handed over your calling to the wrong person in the wrong season. You're not the only one who's ever been loved wrong. You're not the only one who thought your story was over because of what you survived. And you're not the only one who still sometimes wonders if you're even allowed to be whole. But let me be real clear when I say this. You are allowed to be whole. You are allowed to be healed. And you are allowed to rest. You don't have to earn healing. You don't have to prove your worth. And you don't have to stay stuck in turbulence just because that's all you've known. So if you're listening and you're not quite ready to be healed yet, that's okay. I'm not here to rush you. Just consider me a lighthouse. I'm not going to chase you down. I'm not going to force your healing. But when you're ready to come home, when you're ready to rest, when you're tired of turbulence and want peace in your soul, my light will still be shining, guiding you back. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I hope you come back. Make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify. And you can find me on YouTube, clips of the podcast, and extra content from it's just a little bit of turbulence, as well as Life with Rue, because there is a lot going on in this life. You can also follow me on socials at Life with Rue. That's RHU. I'm not a perfect person, just a real one with a real love for God and his favorites, people. And I take my assignment from God very seriously to be light, to be loved, and to help others to know they're not alone in their journey. Until next time, keep breathing, keep healing, and remember, it's not a crash. It's just a little bit of turbulence.